Welcome to Transformational Awakenings for the Health Conscious. My name is Carrie Rose and I am your host. Today I'm going to be talking to Lisa Elle from elementsgroup.com. Lisa is a financial advisor among many other certifications. She owns a business in Cochrane, Alberta, although she is internationally recognized for the work she does. She's an author, she is a blogger, she's just an amazing woman overall. Now, if you've been curious about hiring a financial advisor, or maybe you have a financial advisor that you don't necessarily resonate with, Lisa might be the answer to this dilemma for you. Lisa brings in a totally different kind of paradigm into the world of finances. She speaks from the soul's perspective. She understands that you need to be in alignment with who you are in order to understand what to do with your money. After all, money is just another form of energy. It can come and it can go. Realistically, money is just a pile of paper if you happen to have that much, but that's just paper. It's the energetic value of money that means the most. So through this conversation, we talk about the pendulum of energy. And if that energy gets stuck anywhere, it's a paradigm for disease. It's a paradigm, an opportunity for things to get stuck and to not flow. Therefore, Lisa has some great ideas and great resources to help you allow the flow of money into your life so that you too can experience ultimate abundance. Well, here I am with the most wonderful, beautiful, inspiring, creative Lisa Elle. I am so excited that she is here joining me today. I've known Lisa for, I don't even know, 5 or 6 years, maybe longer.
Yeah, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. So I met Lisa through mutual friends. She was in a public arena doing a book signing. And so I went to check out what her book was all about and immediately knew that I loved her and loved the message in her book. So I bought the book and I have my very own autographed book called STRUT. So Lisa, welcome. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much, Carrie. I'm so excited to be here. I know it's funny. When you think about how you know people, it's like, I don't remember where I met half the people. But when you meet people who you're like, you're just my soul person.
Yes.
That's how I feel when I'm with you. It's just like another soul connection. And I mean, that's what we're talking about today, right? It's just
that's totally energy. What we're going to talk about today. So can you tell listeners who aren't familiar with you, let's get the nitty gritty, all the blah, blah, blah out of the way, all those letters and certifications and all the amazing stuff that you do, because that's what you do. That's not who you are. Because listeners, let me tell you right now, Lisa is, she's the physical embodiment of spirit, and just like we all are, and she's able to take that trueness of her heart and she has the ability to take that message and apply it to the energy of money. But she has the credentials, so I don't want you to be confused with somebody who's up there in the clouds, because she's one of the most intelligent people I know, and as I say, has all the credentials behind her to back that up. So can you just give us a little bit of a foundation?
Sure, absolutely. And thanks so much, Carrie, for that. Like, what an honor to be known for your spirit and your essence versus just some pieces of paper on the wall. And funny enough, I actually got another one in the mail today. I'm like you, Carrie. Carrie and I think joke that we like just collect these pieces of paper.
You're all over the wall. Don't even put them on the wall anymore.
Actually, today we were like, oh, there's no more space on the wall. Whatever. I'll just leave it in the envelope.
That's
but
awesome.
It's so interesting, right? Like talking about like all these kind of designations and all the financial education I've got. I think one of the unique things that makes me really unique is I'm able to take kind of the spiritual side, the emotional, the mental side of money, and really combine it with like implementation. So the intuitive side of money, and really combine it with implementing an actual plan. So I think that's my kind of special realm. But I got started about I was about 20 years old when I got started in the financial industry. And I always tell the story about how my dad, when I was in like, I think it was like, junior high, he would literally take our family to his boardroom at his office. And he had a big, worked for a Fortune 500 company. So we'd sit in his boardroom on a Sunday night when no one was in the office. And he would literally, and keep in mind, this is like when we had the ... printers. Remember the printers with the little the annoying paper you had to like print off and rip off the sides?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, it's so old. So this is how old school it was. He would literally print off budgets for our whole family. And we each got a copy in a portfolio, and we all had to sit around his company boardroom table and go through line by line our family's finances. Like, shoot me now. This is not how I run things in my family now, but it's so funny. Like, that's how I was raised. So I came from kind of a unique place because I don't think a lot of people did the whole family budget night thing. But that's kind of how I got into it. My dad was a real pillar in kind of getting me in. And I thought I always wanted to be in the stock market because to me, like watching all those like 80s movies, like Wall Street, it's like so sexy. And I'm like, okay, yeah, no, that's a lot of stress. And that doesn't sound so much fun. So luckily I kind of just got in and I became a certified financial planner, and I literally have about 8 designations behind my name. So I kind of call it an alphabet soup, but the main one being just a certified financial planner. And just really, I've done a lot of work in the industry. I've been in like, I'm a financial expert. I get asked to write a lot for the Toronto Star or Investment Executive, Advisor's Edge. So, they always ask me to come and contribute to those kind of publications in Canada. So I do that. And just with my book, and then I have a podcast as well, the Money Makeover podcast. So, just trying to get my name out there. And
where can people find your podcast, Lisa?
So it's on anywhere you listen to podcasts. It's like iTunes and is probably the main platform, but I know it's on Stitcher and Amazon and whatnot. And it's called the Money Makeover Podcast.
Awesome.
Lisa Elle. So you want to go check that out. And basically my whole heart is serving home-based business entrepreneurs is kind of, and women is kind of my main market, is who I'm here to serve on a grander scale. So that's where a lot of my marketing is targeted to women, but I love doing talks. I just did one for a group of men in Ontario last week. So yeah, it's fun. I get to chat with a whole bunch of different groups. So yeah, that's kind of speeds us up to today, kind of, but yeah.
That's awesome. I love that you've kind of niched it down to your ideal client who you would like to spend time with, because I feel like women entrepreneurs, home-based ones, maybe even more so, our world has been dominated for the last century or so with the masculine, male dominated, and I'm not talking man versus woman, I'm talking about energy here. So that male, masculine energy of like we were actually talking a little bit earlier about this, but about competition and that drive and about getting to the top, always getting to the top. And I feel like the energy in the world is changing. And it's actually, when I look at the big picture, I can feel from my heart that it's coming from mostly women entrepreneurs with home-based businesses, because their intention is different. Their intention is they want to be home with their families. They want to be with their children. They want to have choices in their life. They don't want to sell their soul to the corporate guy at the top. They don't want to sabotage and backstab and as I say, sacrifice to get to the top. I'm one. We want it all. We want to experience life in the fullness of life. And most of these home-based businesses, whether you're an independent business or if you're like part of a bigger network, a lot of these businesses, I'd say the majority of them, are about service and about, whether it's products or hands-on, but about helping other people. And that's the energy that I feel is shifting in the world and that we need more of. And would you say that I'm kind of on the right track?
I think you are exactly on the right path. And I think women were forging the way. And now with the internet, there's so much more opportunity for us to just be able to do that. And so here's like kind of an interesting story. I've been doing this for 20 years. I kind of went the traditional route. I worked with a lot of men, and these men are amazing, but I was so taught the and I mean really masculine way of doing sales systems, like just everything completely masculine in my business. And it took me about 13 years. It was about 8 years ago when I'm like, this isn't working for me. And the realization, and it wasn't that it was bad, because men have their own unique style.
Absolutely.
And it works for them. Clearly, it's worked for them. Whereas for me, it wasn't working to follow the man system, sort of like that very masculine energy with sales and whatnot in my business. And coming to that realization, really being able to play into my feminine energy now is a lot lighter. And I really more rely on my intuition. I'm able to, like, I read people. Like when I'm sitting with a client, it's not just about their money. It's literally like, what's happening in your life, right? Like, really, I joke, I'm like a psychologist, but I'm like sitting there getting into the deep part of their lives to be able to root out some of these energy blocks, like what you do, but like that's where the money's getting stuck, and they're not able to really step into the abundance you're talking about. So like you and me, in some weird way, we're kind of the same. Absolutely. Right? It's just about clearing out the energy and the blocks. And for me, one of the big blocks basically was this being wanting to do it the masculine way only, and not even like allowing the feminine part of me to come out. And now it is, and it's shifted my business and my life so much to be able to kind of step it more into fully who I am as a woman as well, but just play with that feminine energy. And I still honor the masculine systems, because like systems are masculine by nature. Absolutely. And yeah. I say too, and if any of you are out there listening, you have a business, which I imagine a lot of you do, but like, it's like, you know, you've got to lay out the masculine systems and foundation, and then the women, the structure, and then like the feminine energy almost dances on top of that and plays in that space above it. So it's kind of like you've got the base of the pyramid kind of thing, and then the rest of the energy is like dancing on top of it, the feminine side. So it's the mix and the match, right? But if you don't know it and you're purely on one side, and vice versa, purely on the other side, like there is like that yin and the yang. There needs to be a little bit of balance there, I think, too, in business, a bit of the masculine and feminine energy for men and women.
So that's really awesome. I was just in a course all weekend, and shocking, right? And so my instructor was just lovely. It's just lovely, and she used this. She used a diagram for health, right? Because that's where I'm coming from, and talking about what affects our health and whatnot, and the energies and the belief systems and the thought processes, and especially in the world right now, we have so much contrast, and it's almost like black versus white, or conservative versus liberal, or mask versus non-mask. I mean, there's all this conflict, and it seems to be these two extremes. And so I'm just relating this to what you just said about money and about running a business. And this really pertains to everything in life. If you think of a pendulum swinging back and forth, health is, and I'm talking holistic health, so including money, energy, all this stuff, physical, mental, emotional. Health is the pendulum can swing from side to side, and it's smooth. It's like one of those rides at the fair, right? That big boat, and it goes side to side. If that boat got stuck anywhere, it's more scary if it gets stuck at one extreme or another, because you're like going to be facing down in the boat. But it's still, if it gets stuck as a ride anywhere, that creates a lack of flow, a lack of energy, it creates stickiness, it creates stuckness. And health, optimal health can only be optimal if the pendulum is swinging.
Yes.
So I'm thinking about money, and if you're stuck somewhere without even knowing it, I think the listeners, if you've been listening to my podcast for a while, you realize that, you know, energy is everything. Energy is everything. And if we don't allow that to flow, it's the prime environment for disease. Mm-hmm. And disease starts with the emotions. It starts with the the thought process. So if we can somehow, and this is what Lisa does by tapping into you and using her intuition, she can help find where that stickiness is on your pendulum to help you move through the process. And I've got goosebumps all over because
okay, I have goosebumps
awesome.
all over because what's coming to me right now is someone needs to hear this. Like the pendulum, if you look at both sides of that boat, like either opposite ends, there is for money, it's giving and receiving. And here's the whole thing. I think what happens with women, and we know this, we give, and we are stuck on the one side. And I think so many women and just people in general have to become really good receivers of the gifts, like to step into your true abundance, to step into the life you were called to live and to have excess, and not excess in a bad way, but like abundance is having more than you need, right? And that's what you're called to. You're called to have more than you need. So you can share it and give it and all those things. And you can go back to giving and go back to receiving and like the whole cycle, as you're saying with the pendulum, right? But I think what happens is as women, we are giving. And this is one of the scary things, talking about that masculine, and we're talking about like women's equality and all these things happening in society right now. We've been talking about them for years, literally. When did this get really famous? In the 70s? But like, as we shift from, say, the masculine world to more of a feminine and try to create equality between men and women specifically, I'm finding that we're almost swinging too far. And I've noticed this just a teeny bit. We're not like, because again, we're still very masculine based, but I'm seeing sometimes we swing so far that we're feminine, but then the feminine, like, and the women a lot of times are now they're making more than their partners. Plus though, there's no give. They're still raising the kids, having the babies, being the full-time parents. Like, so I think there's a bit of like just cautionary tale in there. If we go from here, and I mean, society's been known to kind of swing too. We swing so far to the other side. But it almost needs to find that happy medium where we can really just like express and be ourselves. Like there's just like this freedom in being able to live in that flow of the giving and the receiving. And that's the same thing for men and women and the masculine and feminine energy and all that, like just that beautiful, playful flow space kind of in the middle. You're right. If the boat got stuck in the middle, it wouldn't be so bad. Like that's the safest place to exit the boat.
It would be so boring. Right? You're stuck on a boat and it's not moving.
That would be really bad. But it's like, but I see what you're saying about being terrified, being like, if like I'm thinking about the boat ride right now at Callaway Park, like, and if you were really stuck up high, I'm like, that would give me heart palpitations. But being in the movement is so much better. Like being in the movement of it. Yes. So being able to receive and give freely is, it's like mind-blowing. I know this is like, it seems like such a basic concept, yet to really master like artfully this giving and receiving, it's actually just being, I think, more consciously aware of it, being in so much gratitude for what you're receiving, and never deny someone who's trying to give you a gift. Like learn how to receive that. Like that is huge. And this goes back to like a compliment. Like I remember the first time I did a video, they're like, "Oh, you're great." And I was like, "Oh no." I'm like, I couldn't ever even receive a compliment. And that I think for a lot of women, that's like the hardest part to receive, and men too. Like just in general, like it's hard to receive a compliment, especially I think when you deep down know it's like an area that you want to be loved for or well known for.
Recognized. Yeah. So talking about the energy and the giving and the receiving, I'm going to just go with this theme for a second because I'm thinking about myself. So usually if I have a question for me, then probably other people may have the same question. How with money, because I have a lot of belief systems around money that I think part of my whole journey in this lifetime is to figure this stuff out. But there's definitely a lot of belief systems, and a lot of belief systems to do with lack and not being able to, this comes to my question then. How do you coach your clients or your people to have faith that the abundance will show up, to trust the process, and to just have that confidence that we'll be okay?
Yeah, you know what? so much easier said than done. It's hard. I think I mean, we know like our subconscious mind overrides our conscious mind, like with all of our belief, and we have to repattern that. But I think, I mean, I'm a huge fan of affirmations and writing them out and, journaling on them and meditating on them and catching myself in the act of if I'm saying something that does not sound like it comes from the place where I want it to come from. So say I want to like live this life of abundance, but then my words and actions are not indicative of that. So it's like, how do we get in true alignment? Like really, those are the questions. Like, how do we get in alignment with what we really want the life that we're going to be living, like our future basically to be like how do we do that? Just really the belief that everything right now is happening for your highest good, I think has just served me so like immensely in my life, because there are so many times like really crappy things financially happen to all of us. Like the car breaks down and the house needs repairs and a medical emergency happens and there's just, and like, oh yeah. Oh, and by the way, 2020 happened. So there's so much that happens, and it's like, how do you honestly sit there and say it's going to be great the next day? There are days you don't want to get out of bed, kind of a thing, right? And it's hard. And I mean, like what has rooted me, to be honest, is my 5 a.m. practice. And this is like, I've always been a 4:30 a.m. So when Robin Sharma's book came out, the 5 a.m. club, but I'm like, oh, I was already a 4:30 a.m. club. But I think just like having the meditative and soulful practices, and I'm on day 500 of like a gratitude exercise. I do actually with a partner even, and we literally email each other every day what we're grateful for, and just being able to really get into that state of like, how can I get so grateful for what I have right now, and how it just literally will change that point of attraction. And, just going from that law of attraction, like, what are you bringing into your life? And really, when your life is going good, you've changed your kind of beacon that's sending out the signal, right? And I think that's what I always have to remind myself of, is like, everything that's happening, I'm creating essentially. And how do we tune into that and say, okay, I need to change this. I need to start attracting. And I mean, for me, gratitude's by far the biggest factor in all of that. Along with all the other practices, and including exercise, which is huge. Like just getting out into fresh air is just so unbelievably important for me personally, just to be able to function on a day-to-day basis. So, right. Yeah.
What's really funny is sometimes when I'm talking with people for the podcast, I make quite a few notes just to make sure that I can cover everything that I want to cover. And I made one note for you. That's all. And yeah. The note says money and energy and alignment. That's what we're talking about. So I love it. So check mark.
Check. Of course. You say the same thing. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I keep thinking, Jerry and Esther Hicks. I'm like a huge fan of so many people's work, right? But yeah, like it's just always coming back to that law of attraction, and what are you attracting into your life? And it's kind of just taking that personal responsibility, and it's something no one really wants to do, I find, in society at large. But you have to just take 100% responsibility for where you are and what you've created. If you look around right now, the room you're in, like this is where the life you've created, and be grateful for it. And I mean, if it's not what you want, that's okay. That's, signals to our bodies. Like if there's something in your life that isn't where you want it, that's okay. That's just be grateful that you're getting that signal, because now you have the option to choose something different. Like choose, lock in, decide, just go with it,
For sure.
And just call in the new thing that you want in your life, right? And just lock it in. I was saying yesterday, I had a client yesterday, and we were talking about this, and I gave her a financial goal. Like she came into my office, she's lovely. We chatted, I gave her a financial goal that I said, this is the amount I want you to have in your bank account by next year. And it's a scary number, because usually they are. You have to kind of set like something that's, you need the universe to kind of dance and play with you, right? That some of that energy, right? But I said, just remember, when you make your order with the universe, when you are calling in what you want, you need to be so specific with it, and you need to order it once and send it off. Like, I mean, you can repeat it, but I'm saying like, send it off. And if you like, you sent me right now to go make you a cheeseburger, and I go into my kitchen right now and I start pulling out the spices and the meat and the like buns and all the toppings for the burger, and then you say, no, I changed my mind, I want bacon and eggs. Like, me, the cook, the universe is going to be pissed at you, so to speak,
right?
Because you are changing your mind, and you like, they can't rearrange the whole kitchen now to make you breakfast when they're making you a burger. So you need, like, it's think about it from a cosmic side too, right? Like, what's happening? Why do you keep changing your mind? Like, have some integrity with your word. Like, I preach all the time on integrity, but it's not like, oh, show up on time for an appointment. Yes, that's obviously good to show up on time for appointments, but it's like, keep your word with yourself. Like, start making yourself so important that you're as important as, say, a client or an appointment with your doctor, that you're going to show up on time and show up for yourself. And that's from everything from when you say you're going to set a money goal, or, you know, you're going to go for a jog, or like whatever it is that you are, but just start being your word, and in that space of beingness. And that's where the law of attraction, like, this is where all this stuff comes from. If you can be in that space of beingness, like how we collapse timeframes and things just start manifesting faster and faster. And it's just so amazing to see like it open up. And it's just amazing what happens in your life when you can just really harness all that kind. It's your power. It's stepping into your power. So
Absolutely.
I just love that part of it. Yeah.
I totally agree with you. And I think just really important too, that you're putting the intentions out there, and to be cognizant, are my intentions, how am I wording it? Because if I say I want enough abundance to live on an acreage, and I envision this acreage, and I do, and I can see my acreage, and I can see the animals, and I can see my garden, and I can see, that's a lot different than saying I don't have enough money right now for an acreage, because the universe, what it hears, it just says not enough money.
Yes.
Right? So when you're putting those intentions forward, make sure that you're wording it and it's truth, and that you can feel it in the moment.
Yes. And
I think
feeling into your affirmations is huge. Like, because it's all about feeling. That's how you're going to feel your way into. That's, I think, where the pivot happens with going from, say, kind of that, you know, negative energy to a positive. Like, you have to feel into it, and you have to. And here's another thing I actually said to a group of men last week, and I think they probably thought I was a little bit crazy because they were all like engineers, professors, but whatever. I still speak my message regardless who's listening. But I said, you have to be like, instead of just staring at spreadsheets. Of course, I said this to engineers. I'm like, instead of just staring at spreadsheets, I'm like, I need you to feel what your goals are. So instead of just saying, oh, I'm saving up $10,000 for a trip, well, you need to actually see yourself on the beach in Hawaii. Like, that's what you need to see when you're thinking about your dreams. It's not just about looking at a spreadsheet and saying, I'm going to manifest like $10,000 on a spreadsheet. Like, who cares? And to be fair, I'm like, that doesn't do it for me. Like seeing $10,000 in a spreadsheet or a bank account. And I said, if you had $1 million and I piled it up on the floor, it might be fun for 5 seconds to jump around in, but I'm like, who cares? It's just paper. Like,
right. Totally.
It's like your 2-year-old when he gets all the cardboard boxes and he turns them into houses. Like, that's more fun than jumping around in a bunch of paper on the ground. Right. So it's, what are you going to do with your money, and really get into the energy of what's that going to feel like for you to help another person? What's it going to feel like? Like, we live in the town of Cochrane. So what's it going to feel like when you can go to the Cochrane food bank, or the Helping Hands, you know, is it the food cabinet, where you can go and buy enough groceries and fill it up? Like, how does that feel to serve your community? How does it feel to, you know, pay for the guy behind you in Starbucks or Tim Hortons drive-through? Like, how does that feel? Like, that's the like playful fun where you just get to start having a lot of fun, and then things start magically happening. Like, I love
that you said that, Lisa. I think that's what people, I really do, because I'm dealing with people all the time. They've lost that aspect of fun, and fun is the secret. That is the secret.
Yes.
Make your life fun. And if you're not having fun, mix it up, change it.
Yes. How do you add more play to your life?
Yeah.
How do you dance in the magic of life? Like, and here's the one thing I thought of. I'm like, here's a simple tip. If you're driving to work and you go left every day at this one light, why don't you turn right? It won't take you to the right place, but it might take you somewhere fun. Next time you're driving, why not just turn in the opposite direction? And it's so funny. So like I live in a community out in the country a little bit, but there's only one road in and out. But I'm like, I just walk the opposite direction and it goes into beautiful countryside, right? Like, but how many people ever go that way? They always stick to the path. They stick to, no offense, which is fine. I love the asphalt, but like they stick to the asphalt path. And as great as that is, but we all know where the asphalt path is going.
Totally.
It has
There's
a
no fun
beginning
in
and
that.
end, and we've all done it a million times, right? Like you go out and take a different route. Like literally go find a backcountry road and bring your journal. Yesterday I grabbed a coffee up at a cute little shop up in Fireside at Mezzo, and I went out in the country there and just sat and chatted and stared at the cows and just had some nice like quiet time and reflection time. I mean, that's the kind of thing that turns me on. You have to find what turns you on and go out and do it and
Right.
and make like really plan it into your day almost. Like, and if you're really busy and you've got kids and families and business and fur babies and everything else happening in your life, you have to schedule it in then. And that's like the trick, is like actually scheduling it in, but then honoring that. And I say, going back to keeping that integrity with yourself, then going out and doing that. And that's how you also trust yourself. I think a lot of us, we're like the most untrustworthy person we know. And that is such a slam. And it's like, to me, that was such a wake up call. I remember like years ago, I'm the person I trust the least because I never keep my word to myself. I never keep my dates with myself for, you know, exercising, for eating well, saying I'm going to do something and not do it. Here's the trick. And this is the funniest thing. If you actually were 100% in integrity with yourself, I always joke, I'm like, you would be super skinny, rich. Like you would be on fire, because if you really kept your word with yourself, you'd be super rich because you would have saved every time you said you were going to save. You would be super like totally hot and sexy because you would have exercised and eaten exactly what you said you were going to eat, all just because of your integrity. That's where like a lot of the breakdown happens. So I joke, I'm like, hey, just keep your word with yourself. And it's like the magic pill that will literally transform your whole life, especially your money, right?
I love that. I remember before I had children and whatnot, and I actually did a visualization of what I wanted to look like or what kind of lifestyle I wanted to have. And I remember I was wearing like a tracksuit. So it was quite a few years ago. And I had one baby on my hip and another toddler was holding my leg, and my husband came home and I was all smiling. And that's what I visualized. And throughout the years, you know, as with everybody, I've had up and downs with health, and 3 babies in 3 years kind of messed up my body a little bit, and different priorities and businesses. But one thing that I always come back to is that visualization and the choices that I make. Is it getting me closer to that, or is it taking me away from that? If that's because I still have that, I still think of myself as a 20-some-year-old. Like,
yeah, me too. That's good.
And I don't know, does everybody feel this? Like, I don't feel like I'm 50. I still feel like I'm 21. So and then
I'm totally 21.
Like, oh, no, she's 50. But it also made me, when you were speaking too, I did a duathlon yesterday and I had to do it virtually. So it's a lot harder doing it because there's nobody to chase and there's no one chasing you when you do a race. But I did it. And as I was running, I was just, and this isn't my expression, but this expression came up in my mind. And it's like, whether I think I can or I think I can't, I'm right. And so I picked up my pace and worked a little harder. Right?
Yes.
And that's with everything.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. Right. I love that. And like, I acknowledge you for doing that how do you pronounce it? Duathlon?
Duathlon, yeah.
Duathlon. I'm like, I can't even pronounce it. That's how hard it is. I'm like, way to go, Carrie. You're amazing. You're such an inspiration to the community. I know that. So like, way to go. And thank you for inspiring me. Like, I see your Instagram posts and I look and I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm totally 100% like, this is my girl.
Well, that makes me happy because, you know, going back to talking about the energy and talking about intention and integrity, and that's what I feel like we can do together. We can collaborate and we can work cohesively and we can raise that vibration, and we can, you know, listeners, There's people out there for you. If you're feeling stuck on that pendulum, whether it's because of finances, or maybe you don't realize it's directly because of finances. Maybe you're in a relationship that you're feeling stuck with a partner or with yourself, or maybe there's health issues, or we're bombarded in this life with all kinds of stresses coming at us, both externally, but even more importantly, internally. So I'm hoping that through this conversation that Lisa and I are having today, that you can feel some kind of an outlet or hope out there, that there's people like us here for you to help you unstick your pendulum.
Yes. Unstick your pendulum. That's like a great title. Yeah. Hashtag.
Yeah. People will be like, what the heck are they doing?
So good.
So if you were to give a piece of advice to anybody that's listening today, as far as finances, as far as, it's 2021, some people probably did really good last year. Some people had from maybe the whole COVID thing was really good for them financially. Some people not so much. And so we're talking about a huge spectrum here, but what would you say, like, if you're starting like from bankruptcy, or if you're starting with, I've got this money and I don't know what to do with it, or what would be like some advice or some mentorship that you would give a person?
The first thing that comes to mind is like building your assets. What does that mean? Well, so if you're a business owner, like, where are you planting your root system? Like, I know you love trees and garden and plant trees, but like, so where are you planting your roots? And you need to get kind of the root system set up well first before the tree can kind of flourish, right? That's about the extent of my gardening. Right there. That's it. Water the tree. But so build your assets. So what does that mean? Like, I say you want to create a financial base. I say this to everyone. And here's the funny thing is that, when I get my like multi-million-dollar clients that are coming to me and I'm chatting with them, or I'm getting someone who's like literally gone through bankruptcy and has nothing, it doesn't matter. I see this with regardless how much money you have. And it's like just getting some financial basics in place. And just because you may be wealthy or have a thriving business doesn't mean you actually have some of these financial bases in place to actually keep you so you're like, unapologetic, about your money, and you're able to, just continue on. You're unstoppable, right? You want that thing. So what I say is you want to create a financial base, and that means you want to kind of do a checkup on making sure, do you have your will done? Like, are you thinking about kind of what's next? Like, what is the impact you want to leave on the world? You have to start that today. This is like, goes back to like the Stephen Covey thing, like begin with the end in mind, right? So you have your will, do you have your basics like life insurance? What if you got cancer, heart attack, stroke? Do you have disability insurance? Do you have critical illness? So these are some of the basics, and they may not be in value with you, but like, these are kind of the basics that I just review with clients depending upon what their values are. You don't have to value, taking care of your family, by the way. Like, you don't have to value that. You can value whatever you want. I would guess most of us consider that a high value. So it's like, how are we going to protect what our family has built so far and worked so hard for to make sure it's not ruined? Like, and business protection, right? So that goes from like liability insurance and errors and omissions, that kind of thing. So I would say, like, get a proper risk management plan in place. So when something like 2020 happens again, which of course it will, and maybe not in that same shape or form or whatever, but like the winds of life and the sea of life will throw you around, and whatever that is. And we all know, like, health challenges come up. Like, we're not getting any younger, but we're 21, but that's okay. So we're good.
Right.
But we're not invincible anymore. So it's just getting some of those basics in place, and really, even if you have tons of other assets, like, really get into a proper emergency fund, proper stash of cash on hand. I talk a lot about like having cash on hand, why it's still so important, because what happens if the internet's down, or what happens if there's a blackout for days? Like, you need to have some access to cash as well. So just like getting some really fundamental, like baby steps in place that will help you create that root system that your tree cannot be shaken. Sure, you might lose a branch here and there through a tornado or a hurricane, but the tree will come back and it will flourish again one day if you lose branches. So, but if we have that root system in place and things are in place, we cannot be shaken. And that is kind of the whole goal with kind of what I talk about. I have like a free financial base camp, I call it. You can sign up for it at financialbliss.ca. And I go through just those 5 steps. So I'm just saying like these are the first things you need to look at. This is like the basis of your financial plan to get you into that place where, like I said, you don't want to be rocked. So and I think now people are listening to me. I joke because I've been saying this for 20 years, but now people are listening to me.
Right?
It just took 2020 for people to actually start listening to me. I joke about that, but it's like, oh, people are like, oh, this could happen. And now they're realizing, oh, yes, this could happen. Even for people who weren't financially harmed, it's like a wake up call. So I say start there. And like I said, and I'm being very serious, just I know people with a lot of wealth and I know they don't have a lot of the basics in place. Like they would be fine, but it would still take a lot of, say, moving things around and a lot of assets, by the way, are not liquid. So like your real estate, typically it's not liquid. I mean, maybe right now it's liquid because at your house you can sell in a day, but in reality, like a lot of these assets, you can't get, your hands on cash, we say within, when I say liquid cash, something you can get your hands on in say 1 or 2 or 3 business days kind of a thing. So you want to really take a look at some of those things that are going to just keep you in a place that, and here's the other trick, by the way, tying it all into money mindset and abundance and alignment and everything else for your life, is that when you have this financial base in place, kind of like I was talking before about the masculine like system and structure and the base, you get to have freedom to be on top of that and that like kind of dance in the feminine energy of the money, basically. Because when you can take away worry and stress and overwhelm and anxiety out of your money, and know that if you lost your job or got sick, you'd have, 6 months, a year, 2 years to recover without actually dipping into, say, your retirement savings or without sacrificing other goals and other objectives you've set out, like, say, your child's education fund. Like, you're more free to actually heal and not be worried, because worry and stress and anxiety over money are going to cause that dis-ease in your body. And I know, Carrie, you talk about this all the time, but money is a huge source of dis-ease in our society right now. And if we can kind of combat that by setting in place really simple things in place, and I mean really simple, like, here's the thing, it might only take 3 to 5 hours of proper planning. Like, sit down with me and my team, we can do your will, we'll help you with your taxes, we'll help you with like all the basics just to get in place. When you can do that, and it might only take you 3 to 5 hours, you can literally change the trajectory of your family for generations to come. Like, I don't say that lightly. You can change the financial trajectory of your family for generations to come by a few simple things you just need to get into place. You want to pay, the government can get their tax bill, absolutely, but you don't want to overpay the government by poor planning with your investments and whatnot if you pass away. So like, these are real considerations that people, a lot of times, you don't know what you don't know. So you don't even know what really is going on with your taxes or your estate or this and that. And I know we're not dying today or tomorrow, but again, these are things you need to do now that will allow you to kind of just clear up that unfinished to-do list in the back of your head. Like, oh yeah, I need to get a will. Oh yeah, I need to get these things in place. Oh yeah, I meant to do that 10 years ago when my babies were born and now they're like teenagers, like all these things. And it's like, okay, let's just get it done. Free up that energy, clear that energy pathway, right? So we can receive more and step into fuller abundance. So that's what I'm about, is like helping people create that financial base, that financial foundation, so they can actually free up to be more creative, to play in that space and have more fun.
I love it. I love it. And so people can find that on financialbliss.ca, the stepping stones.
Yes.
And then you have some other websites too. I mean, you offer so much. You're like, oh my gosh, Lisa, like, I know you do a blog post.
Yes.
And you've done that for how many weeks in a row now?
Okay, so we are on week 311, so 311 weeks. So it's been over think we're celebrating, I think it's 2021. So we're celebrating our 6th birthday here in like a couple of weeks for Elements Group.
Gosh.
Which was so fun, by the way. I launched it in New York City. I have to say that. Like, it was so fun. Like, I like doing fun things.
Yeah.
So 6 years of this blog, and I call it the Money Makeover blog. I call it the Money Makeover podcast. Try and keep things simple. But that's just on my main website too, and that's elementsgroup.com, where basically everything I do is on that website. That's kind of like my main hub. But if you just want to sign up.
Talk to you for a second. So Elements Group, because I love the name. And so where did that come from?
So, well, to be honest, I actually, like, when I first thought of elements, I thought of like harnessing the power of the elements, like earth, wind, water, fire, whatever, like all the 4 elements, right? Is it 4 or 5? Do they count metal as one too nowadays?
It depends what philosophy you're working
Fair enough. With. But anyways, nonetheless, it was about harnessing the elements and kind of tying in that. But then it was funny because my name was Lisa Elle, so I put in 2 L's. So it's actually ELLEMENTS group.com. So that's how that kind of came. So it was kind of plan work. And the funny thing is, we're also a bunch of L's. So we're a bunch of women, and the feminine word of L's. So it's a very feminine, playful, just kind of, I think that's basically how the name came to be.
I love it. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah. So that's where I would go check out is my website. It's got everything on there. The podcast, Financial Bliss pops up when you go there. So
okay. So that would be the main place to go then with elementgroup.com. Sorry.
Yeah. Elementsgroup.com. Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. And people can find what they need to find from that place.
Totally.
As well as Instagram, Lisa Elle.
I'm on Instagram. I'm Lisa_Elle.
Lisa_Elle.
Yeah.
And so I don't know for the listeners, because you might be listening to this in a couple of years or right away, but recently my Facebook business page was hacked, and it only happened, I think, maybe 10 days after Lisa's was. Lisa has a much more devastating story because everything of hers was hacked on social media. So she's starting all over again. So do you have another group or another page set up for your business on Facebook?
Yeah, I don't have a Facebook page set up yet. I can still see my old one, but no one can touch it or manage it. Amazing. But we do have a Facebook group, the Money Makeover Facebook group, which if you want to go in there and add us and join us, I go live in there and talk more in depth with our group of women, home-based entrepreneurs. So by all means, please join us there if you want to. Or add me as a friend, because I lost all my friends. I'm really down to no friends now. So
I know I've had people ask me, they're like, I got a friend request from Lisa Elle. Like, is that legit? I'm like, yeah, it's legit.
Yeah, because exactly. I don't even exist.
Right?
So how you can be wiped. And you know what, on a side note, and for your listeners too, I just have to say how much at peace I was through the whole thing. It was so bizarre. And I think that's a testament of going through just really knowing, I don't know, just not being rocked by things that, you put so much weight in things, because I put a lot of weight in. And for anyone who doesn't know, I didn't have just a regular Facebook account. I actually I had Facebook ads, I had paid staff that ran it. So, I'm talking, I put thousands upon thousands of dollars into essentially what was my social media and my Facebook. And, I was upset. And I went through all the stages of grief and anger, and I was pissed off. But you know what? Again, I'm really holding that belief, all this is happening for my highest good. I don't even know what that is, because right now, I have 100 friends. So, right. But really trusting that what is meant to be is meant to be. And I don't know what that is, and I don't know. So anyways, that's just sometimes in life, you're just not going to know what's going to happen. So
I think there's a good parallel there. I don't know what word I'm looking for, but the whole social media thing is, if people don't know, you don't own your social media. For example, mine's been hacked. Somebody took over it. I'm no longer an admin, and they're still using it without, it's crazy. So I can't, anyway, it's ridiculous. But you don't own that. You don't own the rights to it. Every picture you post, but I want to take that idea and apply it to your financial life. where is your money going? Is your money going to things like eating out and movies and things that that aren't tangible, that you don't own, right? That's not increasing your wealth. That's not increasing your abundance. And so just, this is probably really boring talk for some people, but can you explain, because I don't know that everybody understands the difference between an asset and a liability?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. A liability is just something you owe someone else. Like essentially my Facebook, here's an interesting thing. You know that on Facebook or all social media platforms, you are the product. That's what they're selling, because they're selling you ads, right? Yeah. So you are the product. And I think it's funny, a lot of people don't realize that they are the product. So neither here nor there, but like, where's the asset? Like essentially we are the asset to Facebook, right? So like an asset's going to hopefully provide you with some income, or can derive income, like if you have a business, or if you own a stock that's paying you dividends, or if you own real estate that could appreciate in value, something that's going to appreciate in value. Liabilities is anything that could potentially cost you money, or even cost you more than what you've initially put into, right? So and debt, like all of our debt is a liability against it, offsetting our assets, right? And I think that's an important metric to follow for a lot of people. And I do get a lot of my clients to start there, is just to kind of see what their net worth is. It's kind of like jumping on the scale when you're trying to lose weight. You kind of don't want to see the number, but sometimes the number, it can be helpful to, not that it's the be all end all by any means. Trust me, I know that better than probably most. But it's just kind of a metric, right? Just to kind of gauge if you're interested in actually growing that number, or shrinking the number in the case of weight loss. But it's just kind of good to see. And one of the other cool, I created something years ago actually, and I haven't really pulled it out a lot. It's a tool I have, but it was called the Net Worth Maximizer. I have this like simple little system I use to actually see how much you're actually increasing your net worth by every month, or how much you're actually not increasing your net worth by every month. And sometimes I find for so many families, especially if you're a young mom with young babies, like it's a very hard time. Kids cost so much money, and you go from this, double income, no kids lifestyle for a lot of us, as an example, to a place where, now kids cost a fortune. So there's a lot of discouragement there with our finances, I find, speaking to those kind of people who are in that boat right now. And I actually created this exercise on purpose to pull out some numbers that will actually give you some hope, because I think what's happening a lot of times is it does look like grim if you look on a balance sheet or a net worth statement or whatever. Like you kind of want to see where you're making headway. And I think sometimes just knowing you're making headway, it's kind of like running the race, just one foot in front of the other. Like as long as you know you're like moving, right? Who cares if it takes you 5 days to finish the race? Like right. Maybe it takes you a day or two, or an hour, but the point is, I think, finish the race, right? Like that's the goal. Like it's not about what did your neighbor do. It's like, are you putting one foot in front of the other? And again, going back to, how does that make you feel? Does it make you feel good or bad? Like those are the two, right? Like going back to the law of attraction, are we putting out the beacon for good, positive, or bad, negative, right? And if it's making you feel good, that you're taking steps in the right direction, that's what you need. That's what you need to start pivoting slowly toward a better financial life. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on that. But I think that there's a lot of like wisdom in there. I don't know who, it's like, I'm not speaking, but it's like, I think there's a lot of wisdom in there right now. But
I love it. I love it.
Sometimes I just start talking and I'm like, who's talking?
I know that's even doing these podcasts. As I said, sometimes I make notes, sometimes I don't usually, because I don't usually follow it anyway, because I think of the message that we're trying to get out there is so important. It isn't me speaking or asking the questions, and there's an energy here that what needs to come out, the information that we're sharing needs to be shared. And this is just a conduit for that to happen. So
totally.
I really truly believe that. I really truly believe that. So whether you're just starting out, maybe you've just recently lost everything, maybe you're pulling yourself back up, maybe you have lots of it, you're not sure what you want to do with it, how to set up your legacy, how to, anything to do with finances. I think Lisa's your girl. I mean, like, here's a disclaimer. She's my financial advisor. So, yeah, it's to be able to tap in, for Lisa to sit there and to be able to tap in with you and your partner, or you and your family, or just yourself, depending on what your situation is, and to be able to read what the true desires are, even if you don't know it at the time. And that is so important, because like the example you were just giving about the race, and you don't need to race against your neighbor, but you kind of need to know where the finish line is, right? You need to know where you're going. And that's one way that you helped me a lot, was like, all right, so you've got this pile, this pile, this pile. The piles aren't necessarily all assets, just saying, but you've got all these piles. Where do you want to be? What's the goal here? Is the goal to live life with just as carefree, and it doesn't bug you to have no savings and whatever, just go hard and go home? Or is it to leave a legacy? Or is it to, and Lisa understands that life is more than just saving, and it's more than just going out for dinner every night.
Yeah.
And the way
there is no right or wrong answer there too. I like what you said, like, is life to go hard and go home? Yeah. And for a lot of people that is, and that's okay too, right?
That's right.
Like, and don't make someone feel bad about it.
Right? Yeah. You can't have those negative feelings associated with it, because then that's what's causing you stress.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
Yeah. If you can be confident in your decision, and maybe you might have remorse lately, but you had fun while you got there.
Exactly.
That's awesome. Well, is there anything else that you'd like to share? Is it any awesome words of wisdom?
No, I think I'm mad. I feel like I've poured out, like, that's good. But I said, who was that? I seriously feel like this has been such a divinely inspired conversation. I mean that honestly. Like, I'm always happy to chat with you, Carrie, because we just go when we chat, and I just love that. Like listeners, follow this woman. She is amazing. She is like the guru of all gurus. I think, like, you are up here in my books, and I am honored to just be in always your presence. Every time you've spoke, every time you've been around me, I feel elevated. And so I thank you for the work you're doing with your community. And I hope we can grow these communities too, because we've got important messages, and listeners have important, we all have these messages, and we need to get them out there. And so
absolutely.
Thank you so much, Carrie.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.
Thank you so much, Lisa. What an awesome time I had speaking with you today. I would just like to remind everybody of one special thing that Lisa said. When you have the financial base set in place, you have freedom. You have freedom because you've taken away the stress and the anxiety that can cause with the unknown when you don't have that financial base set in place. How liberating is that? How much stress do you experience because of your finances? Most of us, I would assume, it's because of lack of finances or insecurity about finances. However, there are people that might have stress because they don't know what to do with their abundance and how to spend their money in an ethical and resonating way. Hopefully, you've learned today a little bit about why money is important and how to take care of your financial foundation. You can find Lisa at elementsgroup.com, where you will then be directed to all kinds of freebies and information that she has. She's got her blog. She's also got her Facebook group, Money Makeovers by Lisa Elle. And yeah, I hope that if you have any questions, feel free to contact Lisa directly, or you can always contact me, Carrie Rose Health, at Carrie at carrierosehealth.com is my email. Or, of course, my website at carrierosehealth.com. Hope you have a wonderful day and living through with your integrity and your purpose and your passion. And don't forget to have some fun.